Okay. Okay. Guess I will get started right now. Welcome everybody to another episode of The Sideline. My name is Rishioza. Um, my voice is a little messed up. Currently a tad under the weather. Um, just nose stuffy and a slight cough, but overall I'm doing all right. But I'm gonna talk about the Nuggets. I didn't stream last week. Was back home for Thanksgiving break. I didn't have a chance to, but ooh, um, I'll talk about their game today. Sorry, I'm watching Red Zone on the side, so if I get a little distracted, that's why. But I'll talk a little bit about them today. I don't want to talk about football, I guess. I mean, I'll talk about a little bit, just whatever comes to my mind, but I want to make this more of a Nuggets-based video. Uh, what's been said about the Broncos has been said. I don't think that there's anything I can say about something that changed this week. Nothing changed this week in their game against the Ravens. It was the same issues. It was the same, literally the exact same script. You're up late in the fourth quarter. Your defense lets a touchdown drive happen at the end of the game. You miss a field goal to win it. That's like the fourth time this season that's happened. So I'm not. I'm not just not going to talk about it. There's no reason to talk about them. Nothing's being fixed. It would just be incredibly repetitive to keep spewing the exact same thing. So I'm going to talk about the Nuggets because there actually has been some development in their season, and it's that they're a little disappointing. I came to this season really expecting them to take a leap into the next tier of teams. I thought they were going to become a contender. I thought they were going to show why they were a contender. And there's been games where you see it, and there's games where there's a lot of evidence towards the contrary. So I'm just going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about what's going wrong, a little bit about what's going right, and just how they can sort of right the ship here. Going into a really favorable stretch of games, coming into their games against Houston. They played two straight against Houston. They were going to have 20 of 28 games at home after having a super road heavy schedule coming into the season. They only played like 9 games at home or something like that, and almost 13 on the road. So they had a lot of travel. Honestly, they played well on the road. I mean, they were playing fine. They were like 8-5 on the road through their first 13 road games, but they've hit a bit of a wall over the past like week and a half. And I'm just going to talk about that for a little bit. So they lost against the Hawks on Friday night. They lose against the oh my god, I'm blanking on who they lose against the Pelicans today. And the Pelicans loss it's worrying, but it's not as bad as the Hawks loss, in my opinion, because the Hawks, you're missing DeAndre Hunter, you're missing John Collins, and you're missing Trae Young. The Hawks didn't have 3 key rotation players, and they still got boat raced by that team, and they were down 16 at one point. They made it a game, but in the second half they fell apart. And the biggest reason why they've had games against teams that they shouldn't be in games against is their defense. Their defense has been incredibly disappointing this season. And the one staple about these the Malone teams is that they're always going to at least compete defensively, and they just have not done that at all so far this season, and it's incredibly worrying. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit. So I'll say this first off: the Nuggets, in order to be a contender, they have to be more consistent, obviously. But something about the Malone teams is that they will always play to their competition, and that's a good thing sometimes, and it's a bad thing other times. So they will always play to their competition, meaning if they're playing a really good team, they're gonna play up to their competition, and it's gonna be a close game. They don't get blown out very often against good teams because they just play up and they play how their competition plays. But it's bad because when their competition is bad, they're playing a team that they should blow out of the water, they stink. And they come out with low effort and they come out with the expectation that they're going to win, even though this is the NBA and anything can happen. And this is an incredibly talented league. And there's teams, even with guys who aren't stars, who are going to be able to kill you if you don't give them the proper respect. And Denver has been doing that for the past 5 seasons. They've had games against teams where they should blow them out of the water. And, it's a 5-point game with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So that's the biggest thing that they have to change. They just have to look more dominant against teams that they should look dominant against. They had 2 games against the Rockets where they killed Houston, and it looked like they were taking the right step towards that. But then you go into Atlanta in a game you should win, and it's evident from the very, very beginning that they weren't going to do that. They were down early. The effort wasn't there. The defense wasn't there. Nothing was working for them. So that's the first thing that they got to change. Just be more consistent and show more effort against the teams that you should beat. But I'm going to talk about their defense, and that's really the reason why they've been so iffy to start this season. Just give me 1 second here. That's the main reason why they've been so iffy is because of their defense, and it's been really bad, like legitimately bad defensively. So their defensive rating is 115, which is 24th in the league. Awful. Their offensive rating is 116.1, which is 5th in the league. Very good. But that only means that your net rating is 1.1, which is 14th in the league, which means that you're a middle of the pack team. That's what it means. And for those who don't know, defensive rating means that that's how many points per 100 possessions you give up. Offensive rating is how many points per 100 possessions that you score. So net rating is kind of your margin of victory per 100 possessions. And Denver is not blowing teams out of the water like they should. And that's an issue. That's a really big issue. Denver should be blowing the teams out of the water. They lost to the Pistons when they were missing Cade Cunningham and Sadiq Bey and Isaiah Stewart. They lose to the Knicks at home. I know Jokic wasn't playing that game, but you lose to the Knicks at home, which isn't good. You lose to there was one other team that they lost to. 1 second. It was one of the teams that they lost to. I'm blanking on it. I'm going to try and find it. But it wasn't a good loss. The Lakers. Lakers are not a good team. They lost to the Lakers. And then they lose to the Hawks again. So bad. Really, 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 really bad. And it just hasn't been good. They just have not been a good team. So I'm going to talk a little more specific about why the defense is bad. First off, the perimeter defense, which you thought was going to be improved this season, has been awful. You bring in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, you bring in Bruce Brown, you draft Christian Braun. All these guys are expected to be, very good contributing members to the defense. And I think Christian Braun has been. I think actually he's been the best defender out of those 3, which is crazy because he's not even playing anymore. But Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Bruce Brown have not been good on the defensive end. They started off well. They started off fine, but they haven't played well over the past couple of weeks on the defensive end. And I know, Bruce Brown's been asked to play a ton of different roles already this season for the Nuggets. He's asked to play bench point guard. He's been asked to play starting point guard. He's been asked to play bench small forward, starting small forward, starting shooting guard, bench shooting guard, starting power forward. He's been asked to do almost everything. So it's really hard to focus on one thing and be able to be good at one thing when you're constantly being asked to do a bunch of different things. So there are, kind of valid excuses. However, it's not an excuse to just be as bad as he has been on the defensive end. Same thing with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and he's been struggling offensively too, which is even worse. Bruce Brown has been fine on the offensive end, but Bruce Brown has really, really, really been, or Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has been really rough on the offensive end. He's been missing open shots. He's missing, he's missing layups. He's not getting as many open looks as he used to. He's not hitting his contested shots. He's not getting to the rim. and defend. I think it's affecting his defensive play because he's missing assignments. He's overplaying shots. He's falling for pump fakes. He's letting guys drive right by him. And those drives straight to the rim by both, or allowed by both KCP and Bruce Brown and Jamal Murray, who has not been good on the defensive end to start the season, which is expected because he's coming off of a pretty major injury. But he hasn't been good defensively either, and it's funneling everything towards Jokic, who's has to play defense. But even him, his effort defensively has not been good this season. It really has not. And I saw a stat yesterday. It was the Nuggets allow about a point per possession when they play Jokic in drop coverage, meaning when there's a pick and roll, Jokic will play around like the free throw line instead of up at the 3-point line where the ball handler is. He'll play way lower and kind of invite the shooter to take a jump shot or invite them to take a 3-pointer instead of coming to the rim. But when he plays at the level and he allows the defender on the screen to get back to his man, they're allowing 0.81 points per possession, which is obviously very good. It's a lot less. Oh my God, what? I'm sorry, I just saw one of the greatest throws I've ever seen in my life by Justin Herbert. What in the heck? How did he do that? Good Lord. He just was rolling to his right with pressure on him when he threw it 40 yards on a dime to Keenan. Oh my God. Oh, he caught it with one hand too. What the heck? This is okay. Wow, I got caught way off track. Sorry. Jesus Christ. That's one of the greatest plays I've ever seen in my life. Geez. Where was I, man? Defensively, everything's being funneled to Jokic, and when he plays up and they stay on the perimeter, it's a lot. The defense is way better when they keep everything on the perimeter as opposed to letting them get into the paint. Obviously, right? But I'm gonna say some stats here, and they're not good ones defensively for Denver, and it's about shooting percentages versus the Nuggets. So opponents, when they're less than 5 feet from the rim, so pretty much like at the rim, or just outside the restricted area and the restricted area, they're shooting 69%, which is the worst in the league. They're shooting 71% in the restricted area. Once again, worst in the league. They're shooting 44.6% in the paint, non-restricted area, which is 23rd in the league. And there's teams that are shooting 43% from mid-range against the Nuggets, which is 22nd in the league. So by almost every single shooting metric inside the 3-point line, Denver's been a bottom 10, bottom 5 defense, which if you look at how they're playing, it checks out. It completely checks out. It's not like, just bad shooting luck. That some games there are just bad shooting luck, but games like today where they're just funneling everything straight to the rim, games like Friday where they're just letting teams get to wherever they want and they're letting them get to their spots without any resistance, it makes sense. Like these stats back up what you're seeing on the court. It just doesn't make any sense. The team is too talented defensively to have metrics like this. So, and to prove that, in clutch situations, they've been a phenomenal team. They've been phenomenal defensively, and it doesn't make any sense. The team is 6-3 in clutch games, which is 3rd in the league, and clutch is defined by in the last 5 minutes of the game, is it a 5-point game or less? Like if the margin is within 5 points with 5 minutes or less to go, that's defined as a clutch game. If it gets to that point at any point, that's a clutch game. So teams shoot 35% from the field in the clutch, not in the rim, just from the field in the clutch versus them, which is 4th in the league. And they shoot 12.9% from 3 versus Denver, which is 2nd best in the league. And they have a 102 offensive rating in the clutch, 21st in the league, not good. But they have an 85 defensive rating in the clutch, which is 1st in the league by a mile. So it shows that when they want to play defense and when they put in the effort and focus in defensively, they can be great, because in clutch games, you can't really make mistakes, and they don't make mistakes. They're playing phenomenal. And it just, excuse me, it just does not make any sense as to why they're so bad defensively. And I don't want to put it all on Michael Malone. I'm not saying that this is 100% Malone's fault, and like because I don't think it is. I truly don't think that it is Malone's fault. But when you look at how these guys played on their previous, you had them. Okay. When you look at how these guys played on their previous teams, they weren't this bad defensively, and those guys had arguably worse defensive casts. I think Aaron Gordon has comfortably been Denver's best defender this season, and he hasn't been that great on the year defensively. He's had his issues, he's had his points where he's gotten beat and he's gotten cooked, but they're just not like he still has been the best guy defensively. He's been the best shot blocker, he's been the best rim protector, and I think that's another big thing. I'll say what I was going to say beforehand. Ooh, Stan. So I was going to say beforehand, I don't want to put it all on Malone, but you look at how the players played previously and how they're playing now. They don't just get worse like that. That's not how it works. You don't just play well 1 year, or not even just 1 year, but 2-3 years in a row, get to another team and play significantly worse. That doesn't happen. It's something with the scheme that is just not fitting. So Malone has to figure something out. And I don't know what the fix would be. I don't know how you're able to fix it other than just playing better. Because obviously the scheme works in the clutch when they are playing better. 85 defensive rating, best in the league. So they just have to figure out something. And today was a really poorly coached Malone game because New Orleans goes small on the bench. They play Larry Nance as their bench big. Willy Hernangomez came in because Jonas Valanciunas got into foul trouble, so they needed a center. So Willy Hernangomez came in, but they don't normally play him. They normally just play Larry Nance, and they'll run with that. But Malone still chose to go with DeAndre Jordan, who has not been good this season. After a strong start, he's really fallen off. Instead of going with Zeke Nnaji, who would have been a much better fit, he continues to play Davon Reed, who has been like just objectively bad this season after being so solid last year, which is such a disappointment. He hasn't been good this season, and benched Christian Braun for some reason, who hasn't even touched the floor in like 2 weeks for some reason. Once again, like he's played fine in every single minute that he's gotten, especially defensively, which is what you need help with. And he puts in Davon Reed, who, let me look at Davon's stats because it just has not. They haven't been good this season. He's not shooting the three well. He's defensively, he's been awful. I mean, just downright awful. He's only shooting 34% from three, 29% from the field, as compared to last season when he shot 43% from three and 50% from the field. It doesn't make any sense. He's completely regressed, which is such a shame because I thought he would have been a key role player for the team, but he's been really, really bad. And Christian Braun's been good defensively, and he's made open threes when he's asked to. He missed it. Oh wow. And he's been better than Davon Reed this season by a decent margin, like a sizable margin, and he inexplicably got taken out of the rotation. Zeke Nnaji's been better than DeAndre Jordan. He got taken out of the rotation, and it seems like Michael Malone will only play his younger players when he's forced to. He'll give his veterans every single chance possible to prove themselves before he goes to a rookie or a younger player. And I don't understand why, when it's clear from the get-go that these guys are better. It happened last year, and ultimately for the team and ultimately for the players' careers, it works out. And he's done it with a lot of players. He did it with Jamal Murray. He did it with Jokic. And I've said this before. He did it with Michael Porter Jr., did it with Bones Highland. It works. Like whatever he does works, but it's incredibly frustrating when you know it. Like everybody knows to play the other guy, but he will always give the veteran the chance over the younger guy. And I hope he'll change. I know he's not going to, but I just hope that he'll change at some point. Change the rotation, get Zeke Nnaji in there, get Christian Braun in there, just to change something. And today, he just kind of threw lineups at the wall when Denver was struggling in the first half and just hoped something stuck, and nothing did. Like Bones Highland played and he wasn't good, but then he gets benched. You bring in Jamal Murray and Ish Smith on the bench. They don't work. Like he's doing everything except just playing the two guys who is going to work. So that's bad, obviously. So I think part of what is wrong is definitely on Malone, but I think ultimately it just comes down to scheme and effort, and the players. I don't think they're trusting in the scheme just yet, and they're not playing with the right effort. And that's really what's going on. Michael Porter Jr. coming back is going to help the team a lot because Bruce Brown will go to the bench. That'll help their defense. I think he's more comfortable playing defense on the bench. He's obviously more comfortable playing offense with the starters because of Jokic, but I think he's more comfortable playing defense off the bench. So I hope him going, Michael Porter Jr. coming back whenever he does, will help. It'll help him, but I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. But Denver has an easy-ish schedule coming up. But they got to start winning some games, and they got to start showing that they're a contender on the court instead of, oh my God, man, Devontae Adams. Oh, he didn't get a second foot in. Hold on. No, he didn't get a second foot in. But they got to start showing that they're a contender. Then they got to start proving it, instead of, they haven't really said it. They've said they want to be that, but they don't. Malone said early, like in training camp and media day, that he wants Denver to be a top 5 defense, and that might be the worst take that he could have ever said. But it's just so weird because last season Denver's defensive personnel was so much worse than it is right now. And they were so much better than they are right now. And this doesn't make any sense. I think to me that just comes down to effort. And right now the Denver's defense, they're just not playing hard. And I think that shows by the clutch stats and the regular stats. So you got it. So we'll see what happens. December, it's not the easiest schedule for them in December. They have a game on Tuesday, TNT game at home against Dallas, who obviously we know gives them a hard time. Then on the road against Portland, who is good, on Thursday. Then, dude, are you kidding me? I'm gonna miss another one. God. All right. Well, they're gonna play the Jazz at home on Saturday. Then the Wizards at home, Lakers on the road, Hornets at home, Grizzlies at home, Blazers at home, Suns at home on Christmas. On the road against the Kings for 2 straight. Oh, that's a back-to-back too. That sucks. And then at home against the Heat to finish out December. So a bit of an some easy games in there. But once again, I don't think that the NBA this season has many pushover teams. I think there's a couple. I think like Charlotte's one of them. I think the Rockets are one of them. But if I'm being honest, that's it. Like that's really it. Every other team is like has people on their team who are legitimately good. So there's not going to be many games where Denver's gonna like blow them out. Because the teams are just too good and there's just too much talent in the NBA right now. So we'll see how it goes. But I'll try and talk about whatever. Try to talk about whatever happens over the next couple of weeks. Try and stay consistent with it. I will be going to India around Christmas for a couple of weeks, so I'll try and make as much content as I can before then because I won't be able to when I'm over there. So I think that's gonna do it for this one. I really wanted to make it as Nuggets based as possible. No reason to talk about the Broncos. There are some NFL games going on, some close ones, but I think I'll talk about those at a later time, at another day. Yeah. So that's going to do it for this episode. I wanted to keep this one a little bit shorter just because my voice is still kind of messed up and I do have some stuff to get done later in the day. want to keep this a little shorter.